All right, so meeting call to order. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Got some rest, stayed safe and healthy. And now we're here to get back to work. Can you put up the agenda?
Oh, you know, Madam Chair, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint for the next agenda item would be the roll call.
Okay. I usually go by. That's okay. Roll call, please.
Sure. Angela Ortiz. Angela Elliott Santos.
Present.
Austin Jones. Bill Gore.
Present.
Kara Desert.
Present.
Daphne Watson.
Present.
Eleanor Evans. Eleanor Evans. Elena Perez.
Present.
Ellen Nash.
Present.
Enrique Morones.
Present.
Estela de los Rios.
Present.
George Corey.
Present.
Gina Roberts.
Present, ma'am.
Griselda Ramirez. Gwen Sanders.
Present.
Kate Chasen.
Present.
Kate Clark.
Present.
Kenya Taylor.
Present.
Nicole Murray Ramirez.
Present.
Maya Alfonso. Norma Chavez Peterson indicated she'd be joining us at about 10:30. Pedro Anaya.
Here.
Rashid Essa.
Present.
Ryan Garcia.
Present.
Samuel Choi.
Present.
Shane Harris.
Present.
Summer Steffen.
Present.
Taha Hassan.
Present.
Tammy Gillies.
Present.
Warson Arton.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. And Vince Catula indicated he would be absent today. That completes roll call, Madam Chair, and we do have a quorum. And I can tell you we did not have any non-agenda public speakers.
Okay, great. Okay. The reason why, my understanding is the reason why we called this, because I wasn't on the call last week, is the issue at hand regarding public safety, public safety, particularly during protests. I wanted to get into a little bit, we wanted to get into a discussion about that particular issue.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt. Item 4 is first considering consider adding a standing agenda item to discuss community raised matters relating to the commission promoting positive human relations. And agenda item 5 is the discussion arising from 2 electronic public comments on the non-agenda items received for the November 24th meeting. Did you want to do item 4 first about the considering adding?
Yes. Item number 4, because I see it here now. Consider adding a standing agenda item to discuss community raised matters relating to commission promoting positive human relations. Okay. So Claudia, can you kind of respond to that, summarize it, and then commission members, you can chime in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So recently, the commission has received some public comments on matters that were not on the agenda, which we could not discuss due to the Brown Act limitations. And this has led to questions by the commission about how can you as a commission discuss matters that occur within the community. And in looking at the various duties and responsibilities, the commission does have a variety of duties and responsibilities, such as seeking out, listening to, and engaging community concerns regarding human relations, promoting positive human relations and fostering mutual respect and understanding among all groups and communities within the county, to work in identifying and ameliorating human relations problems. And so this item was put on in response to comments as to some of the commission members had raised about what can we do in regards to hearing items that come before in public comment, so that as a commission you all can start to engage in that work of hearing from the community.
Okay.
So in effort to be responsive to some of the questions raised by the commission, in consultation with the chair, we put on the agenda to consider adding a standing agenda item that would allow the commission to discuss discuss community raised matters relating to the commission's focus of promoting positive human relations and furthering their other duties and responsibilities.
Okay. Okay. So this is more of a process issue.
This would be an opportunity to have an agenda item that would allow for some discussion, and depending on the commission's discussion today of consideration of this item, articulating what other types of actions that may be related to such standing agenda items, such as if they wanted to be able to consider forming subcommittees to respond to some of these, or to take an opportunity to learn more, hear from the public through other types of forums potentially, and et cetera, and or opportunities for engaging in education for the community.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Okay. So can we begin that discussion, commissioners?
Absolutely. There's one raised hand, Elena Perez.
Yes, good morning. So I just want to make sure I understand. So it's basically calling to reserve a slot on the standing agenda in case such issues come up like this last go around, that we are free to discuss it during that meeting, you know, occupying that space at that time. Is that what this is asking for?
Yes, it would allow for the commission to discuss matters that are raised by community members in a forum where that you could have that engage in the dialogue.
Okay.
If there's going to be any particular actions that you want to take arise from that, that would either need to be specified beforehand on the agenda, because the potential actions would need to be identified, or to the extent there's further discussion dialogue about specific instances or incidences that would require notice, that would give you the ability to to frame what you want to do in discussion of that item and to gather more information as you deem appropriate.
Okay, it does make sense to me, because, you know, like I don't want like what happened last time, that we didn't ignore it, but we weren't free to discuss it again because it wasn't on the agenda. So this way it gives us that ability to, if something does come up and we feel the need to discuss it at that time, we can. So I'm for the idea. Thank you.
Member Roberts had her hand up.
Yeah, Member Roberts. As far as I understand, what it would allow.
Go ahead.
What it would allow us to do is to hear the conversations, the comments of the community, ask questions about it, make comments about it, but not take any action on it. Is that a correct interpretation?
Generally, yes, unless there is some actions potentially noted on the agenda. So for example, currently, when items are made at public comment, the commission is limited to referring it to staff as a constituent referral, and then staff refers that matter to the department who would be the lead department to provide that response. They reach out to that member of the public and work with them to address their concerns or resolve the issue with them. That is what currently is the practice and what happens.
So as a follow-up question to that, so what that would allow us to do is, if we find an issue that we need to deal with it, we can refer it to staff, put it on the agenda for the next item for potential action, but we have the opportunity to inquire about the issue and understand the community's input more thoroughly than just hearing them, for lack of a better word.
Correct.
Right. So I would make a motion that we institute such a policy.
Let's see. Enrique's hand is up. Enrique?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so the issue that's being discussed is not only when it's a protest, because somebody said when there's something that happens at a protest, whenever anything happens. It doesn't have to be in a protest, especially when there's public comment, and the public comment is about security and it's an immediate situation. Well, we need to act on it immediately. And so I want to make sure that we can facilitate that, because many of us, even though we're maybe not that ethnicity or whatever, we do speak on issues regarding lots of different topics and have every right to. And so when it happened last week or whenever it was, when people made public comments, or not public comments, but they were in writing, I heard that a lot of people hadn't even seen those. And those that had, I was shocked that they hadn't said anything until I made my comments. And then, of course, that sparked a little bit of a debate. But it's important that we're allowed to respond or hear these public comments, especially when it's a safety issue, especially now, regardless of how some people feel about when is the right time to talk about it. This is the forum. We're the Human Relations Commission. And if a community member has an issue, we need to listen. And oftentimes we need to act. And we can't wait for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes we need to act now. So I want to see that we can do that, and how that would be structured. That's what I favor, and hopefully the commissioners agree.
Madam Chair, the next speakers in the queue are Pedro Anaya, George Curry, and Shane Harris, in that order.
Okay.
I don't believe there's been a second on the motion, so I'll be happy to entertain that second. But at the same time, the one thing I want, and I'm in support of this, obviously, but the one concern I have is that there needs to be some protocol or guidelines to that it's in response specific, either in response specifically to public comment, or some kind of guideline like that, because my concern would be that if we have this standing agenda item, that it just become a free-for-all where everyone can just add to this agenda item. And I think there needs to be a process. If a commissioner wants to bring something up, they should go through the chair, not through the agenda, through this item. But if it's a community concern that's brought up that we would like to discuss, I think that caveat needs to exist of some sort. If not, it could potentially become a free-for-all, which takes us away from our agenda. So I just want to be very cautious with that. Something to consider. I don't know how we would frame that, but that would be one concern. But I think the item is definitely needed. I think Enrique is right. There's things that we need to address immediately. But again, somehow we need to put some boundaries around it so it doesn't become, all of a sudden there's 10 commissioners and we each have an item and we never get to the business of the commission.
Next speaker is George Curry.
Maybe I speak with an accent, and maybe sometimes I understand with an accent. Do I understand that the process is we look at what the public comes back to us and then we give it back to the staff to handle it or take care of it? Or are we as a commission have any capability of acting and making some decisions, or at least recommendations to the supervisors, to the board, or having a committee to review and investigate an incident as such?
Member Corey, currently the duties and responsibilities of the Commission provided wide latitude on the variety of actions it can take in matters related to human relations. Thus, if a member of the public were to raise an issue of concern that the Commission wanted to engage in dialogue, provide a public forum or a discussion, use it as an opportunity to provide educational information of the such, it has all those options under its current duties and responsibilities that you've all just adopted. Currently, the process is just as it is with the Board of Supervisors. Should a member of the public speak on a non-agenda matter, it is referred as a constituent referral to the CIO's office, then gets distributed to the appropriate department, because that's also very incident specific. Many times there have been a few public comments received on non-agenda items in which the comments have been on specific events, but are raising questions that may be beyond that specific event also. So that the extent of the commission's duties are listed out in its duties and responsibilities. And it does have quite a bit of latitude in that regard in relationship to doing, I'll take out my quick list. For example, advising on issues affecting human relations. It has examining the causes of tension, conflict, discrimination, and intolerance between various groups and providing recommendations, just as you've described, conducting workshops and other meetings to educate the community, seeking out, listening to, and engaging community concerns, engaging in research and education for the purpose of lessening prejudice, including the preparation and dissemination of information on understanding diverse groups, providing liaison and assistance to community groups interested in fostering intergroup understanding and civil peace, working in identifying and ameliorating human relations problems, and advising the Office of Equity and Racial Justice on all matters of equity and racial justice throughout the region. That's a quick, and of course, promoting positive, I didn't start with the top one, promoting positive human relations and foster mutual respect and understanding among all groups and communities.
The next speaker.
Shane Harris.
Hi. So I think that this is essentially a really important move by the commission. I think that we need to be responsive to the people that this commission needs to be responsive to the people that are reaching out to it on various issues. And I think that this is essentially gives the commission the opportunity, Claudia, if I'm right or wrong, you can let me know, but I think it essentially gives the commission the opportunity to potentially respond within the same meeting to concerns if that issue, if there's an issue that's being raised. It gives the commission the opportunity to analyze those concerns at the present moment and potentially have some response to those issues within the same meeting. The only thing I would be cautioned of, and this is only because, and I've always been an advocate of transparency, but I think that there needs to be sort of a line drawn, and I think someone mentioned this earlier in the discussion pertaining to how that interaction happens, and some limitations to what actions may need to be taken. And the reason why I say that is because if there's no threshold, what happens is that people, one, show up expecting you to immediately do something at that moment without any analyzing or strategy. And I've seen the benefit of sometimes not responding immediately, but assuring those constituents that we will strategize and we will come back with an answer. We stand ready to help you. And I think that there is a benefit to the analyzing of a problem and then coming back with a well thought out solution. And part of that can happen in the meeting, but sometimes that might not happen in the meeting all the time. And so keeping some of those principles intact, I think, benefits the work of the commission because it also allows the rest of the agenda, which you want to be careful of veering off of, to complete other things that are also on hold with the work of the commission. So I support it. I think that there does need to be a real clear threshold. And I don't know exactly what that looks like. I think, just really designate in the language, making it clear that the analyzing of the problem, of the public comment, if it's serious enough, can be done in the context of the same meeting. And then, maybe maybe one meeting and one more meeting with some discussion within the same meeting, and then putting it onto another meeting to have the continued discussion. Maybe something like that could not delay the response, but also give the commission some added time along with the discussion that's currently happening to also happen at the next meeting continued. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Shane. Next speaker.
Eleanor Evans and then Gina Roberts. Madam Chair, we had Eleanor Evans who had her hand raised.
Eleanor?
I just got on. I don't have my hand raised.
Oh, I apologize. That was an error in our reading. And then Gina Roberts.
Gina?
I have to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Okay. I thank you, Commissioner Harris, for the clarification, because I think that's an important part of this thing, is to actually have the dialogue, engage in the conversation with whoever's having the conversation, but then we need to actually investigate it and then put it on the agenda so that for action. And I think that process that was originally laid out will be the best way to deal with it and keep it. I don't want it to sound like this is a negative, but I'm worried about this becoming kind of a whining session. You know, what we want to do is we want to capture the fundamental problems and be able to work fundamental problems rather than just putting band-aids on things. You know, and the county has a tremendous amount of resources and commissions and things that are working on smaller fixes and things like that. And I think what we want to do is be a little bit above that fray, let those other commissions do the work that they're designed to do, and then what we want to do is kind of bring it all together. And then if we need to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, then we have that ability and we can do that. So I continue with my motion.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Sheriff Bill Gore.
Thanks. I just want to quickly endorse both Shane's comments and Gina's comments. I've been to enough public forums where somebody will come up and they'll make a complaint about something that happened to them, and I'm in the position of being stuck without all the facts. So I think we can be a sounding board, listen to complaints in the community, but I think it's important to refer it to the appropriate agency, maybe not the Sheriff's Department, whatever the agency is, to come back with all the facts and make the determination. Maybe it's more appropriate for that complaint to be referred to the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board or whatever. But to try to answer spontaneously in this forum, I think would be a great disservice. Thank you.
I see two hands, Daphne, and I see Enrique's hand are up. Daphne?
And also Daphne Watson's other hand physically raised.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Daphne Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is such a critical issue. I think I raised this point of having a standing placeholder for the community input. And one of the challenges that oftentimes happens from the community perspective is that we put so many barriers to their communication if they have a legitimate issue. It takes courage from the community to bring their issues forward. I think we need to honor that, as well as, yes, look into it and refer it to the appropriate places, but not to minimize it. I think all voices should be heard. I think we all can have processes that will honor that, but I don't want to ever take a position where we minimize the voices that people have, and let them share their thoughts, let them have their voice shared. We can let them know that there are limitations to what actually we can do, so that people are clear that this is not, there are things that we can do and things that we can't do. But let us not ever portray the message that we're a perfunctory body here that don't really hear and honor the voices of the community.
Madam Chair,
You see,
Mr. Morones and Mr. Harris have their hands up.
Yeah, this is Enrique. I agree with what Ms. Watson said and the general spirit of the other messages. I just want to point out once again that there are certain situations in which we need immediate action. We're not going to send it to some committee when we need immediate action because somebody has been physically threatened, attacked, those types of things. So we need to have a manner in which to respond immediately. It can still be studied, but we need to immediately respond. That is my point. And if I report something that happened in defense of my Black brothers and sisters, it doesn't matter that I'm not Black. It's important. So we need immediate action on some of these issues. And I would imagine most people agree with that, but I want to make sure that we clarify that. Because we always say, well, we need to study this. And then 2 weeks later, somebody's gone because something happened, because nobody protected them. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. I don't care what the commission says.
We had Member Harris and Member Sheriff Gore.
Thank you, Claudia. So I want to clarify what I'm proposing here in regard to this particular issue, and maybe it's a counter motion. But I think that the immediate, so I want to lay this out. I think one, the immediate conversation is sometimes necessary, depending on what the issue is and how the commission, the spirit of the commission is moving in that moment. I think that immediate conversation is necessary. I also think that, two, there needs to be a time frame that conversation can happen. So maybe the commission decides a conversation based upon a particular topic that draws conversation among the commission, responding to a public comment can take place for 15 minutes or some time frame that can happen immediately at that moment. And the reason why I feel that that's important is because you don't want the other business of the commission to become delayed because now a new conversation has arose and it takes an hour of commission work time. And so I'm proposing a time frame if there is a direct conversation in response to a public comment that needs to happen within that time, within that meeting. The last thing I'm proposing is that if there is a census of sort of a direct decision within that same meeting, that it happens within that time frame of 15 minutes. And I really propose that a decision is made at the next meeting, because usually when you speak to the Board of Supervisors or a lot of other commissions, they don't even get to the business. Maybe a member asks for the situation be placed on a future agenda, but they don't even get to the conversation. I think that by us agreeing here that yes, conversation is critical in response to a public comment, but we're going to put a time cap on it in that same meeting, and then let's make the decision at the next meeting. Let's place the agenda, let's place the item on the agenda for a decision at the next meeting. That both handles the expedience, the expedient part of what the commission is supposed to do in responding to the public need, while also allows the commission to also deal with its other business and to have part of that conversation at this meeting and then to make the decision at the next meeting. And I think that handles both the concern of the commission continuing its important work, but also responding to the needs of the public.
Okay.
Our next speakers are Member Sheriff Gore and Member Ryan Garcia.
Just quickly, I want to clarify, maybe elaborate on what Enrique was saying. And I don't think this board should become a place where people feel they come in and make complaints. Enrique talked about something that needs immediate action. There's a criminal act or a threat against somebody. If that's the case, pick up the phone, but that person's got to be calling 911 or their local law enforcement agency, not come to the Human Relations Commission meeting. That's not what we're about. So I want to clarify that. I'm sure that's not what Enrique meant, but those urgent type matters shouldn't be coming to the HRC. I don't think they should be going to your local law enforcement agency or, you know, for public safety concerns. And we'll look at big issues, whether they be, you know, a systemic problem within the way police are policing different protests, or that type of issue, or maybe not being as unbiased as they should in a certain area. Those are the kinds of things. But any type of threat, that's got to be reported immediately to your law enforcement agency.
Yeah. Member Ryan Garcia is next.
I just have a few clarifying questions, one for Commissioner Roberts and one for you, Claudia. Commissioner Roberts, what was your proposal? Can you give me a little bit more information? It's been a while since I heard your proposal, and we've had so much discussion. So before I speak on like another proposal or speak to everyone else, I just want a reminder of what you suggested.
Let me turn my, at the request of Commissioner Garcia, the motion that Commissioner Roberts has put forward is that we set aside a time period in each meeting to allow for public comment on essentially any subject that we, as an agenda item, so we as commissioners can comment and inquire with the public commenter for, I do like the addition of Mr. Harris, limiting it to a 15-minute time block. I would add that to my motion, and that we take that issue, and if we as a organization approve it, put it on an agenda as an agenda item for action at the successive meeting. And that would be my motion.
Okay. And the question for you, Claudia. I'm all for a 15-minute, adding 15 minutes in the case if there is a public comment. I think it's a great idea. I think flexibility is imperative in acting in good governance and responding to the community. But at the same time, there are some issues that will take multiple meetings, and we've had that happen before. And even though we might plan to make a decision by next meeting, maybe an hour is not enough. Claudia, I'm just wondering, in that if we by chance allocate 15 minutes to discuss and raise initial reactions to public comment concerns, in those 15 minutes, can we at the end suggest maybe a committee of some sorts to analyze the information in more detail and bring it to the next meeting, so that there's some kind of discussion that's not just restricted to 2 meetings? Maybe this special committee can meet another time in between the 2 weeks.
So I'm happy to respond to that. So generally, let me preface it with, during public comment currently, we allow public speakers to come in and they present for 2 minutes, and the first 10 minutes of the meeting is allocated to public comment. And then if there are more than that, then they go to the back end. What this agenda item would allow is that discussion element that Member Roberts had raised, and I believe Member Harris, where you are able to maybe elicit a little bit more information. A discussion, as noticed as a discussion, it would not allow for the action to occur. But as you've suggested, if during those if there's a time frame that's designated on the agenda that the commission would like to limit these discussion items, because recognizing that these are matters being raised by the public, and you may not have all the necessary information, may not have all the facts, you may have there may be other resources to assist in answering. You could certainly, the commission could have options of forming a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee for that purpose, to look into it, gather more information. And in doing so, it is always needs to be consistent with its duties and responsibilities. I do want to make clear that to the extent there's a discussion, we may not have immediate answers. And in fact, I would caution, I don't want to the commission to believe that we would have immediate answers at that very same meeting when we first hear of something. what we may have is the ability to suggest whether or not there are other resources readily at hand or other departments that would be most knowledgeable potentially, but it would not be a situation where we could immediately respond to any factual issues without more fact gathering. And that's generally, I don't want to mislead the commission to think that we would have, in a very short time frame, on the fly, the ability to fully respond and vet an issue or concern. But could you form a subcommittee? Yes. Could you take more than one additional meeting to discuss the issues and how they pertain to the commission's purpose of promoting positive human relations? Yes, the commission could certainly do that.
And that would need to be added to the motion that Commissioner Roberts and I believe Commissioner Harris is thinking about.
Yeah, so the motion could be reframed. The original maker of the motion could amend their motion and the second could agree to it. And we could put some, I would say, a little bit more firm parameters so that it's clear. And if that's what the maker of the motion would like to do. And Madam Chair, we also have Member Harris who has his hand up.
Member Harris?
So thank you. So Commissioner Roberts, I'm suggesting that you amend your motion and add the 15-minute, which you already said you would. I also am suggesting that because I do understand the need for a body of this nature, anybody that says that it's going to address human relations or represent the interest of constituents has a responsibility to respond and to figure out the strategy and then to come back to those constituents. And I believe this commission has that same responsibility. So in that spirit, I would ask that we add the 15-minute conversation portion, not to go over 15 minutes based upon public comment. And I would also add that the decision of that, the conversation shall be continued at the next Human Relations meeting in an agenda item that leads to an outcome or what I'm looking for, the action that leads to potential action that the commission can take on that particular issue. That then gives the constituents the trust and belief that the conversation that is going to begin now is not going to stop. It will continue at the next meeting, and potential action could be taken based upon the constituent complaint.
So Madam Chair, we don't have any other hands raised.
Great.
And we
I would like to make some comments. All of the comments regarding public comment, your responses have been excellent. I want to caution though, that in my years of 40+ years of conducting investigations, and probably some of you as well, and grievances and complaints, and even positive comments, it all requires consistency, transparency, but more important, consistency. So the way we handle this process has to be consistent. In layman's terms, we can't pick and choose. You have, because we want to make sure that every constituent, every resident in San Diego County, when they come before this commission, they're treated with respect and dignity. I don't care how minimal the issue is, it is important to that resident. So the way we treat what we think in our own judgment is minimal versus immediate action, in terms of what physical damage or whatever, it has to be treated the same. So whatever process we come up with, it has to be consistent. And we have to ensure that the residents understand what the process is. So they leave this audience understanding this is the process in which my important response, my important issue will be responded to. That is the piece. Because as a resident, I've had experiences providing public comment. I never heard a word, nothing, and I felt disrespected, especially when another issue came up and everyone was all over it. Well, my issue was just as important as that other person's. So the consistency in how we handle this process has to be consistent, and the resident has to understand what the process is. That's one comment I have. My second comment is, if there is a common public comment that is very common, that continues to come up, we may want to have some town halls regarding that particular issue. Case in point, a peaceful protest. I keep hearing that. I watch it on Facebook. But how do we really define a peaceful protest? For instance, to me, that could become a positive human relations community discussion, bringing in the subject matter experts, the whole 9 yards. So again, it's a way of promoting positive human relations to the constituents and residents of San Diego County. So those are my two important points that I wanted to raise. And I agree with everything that's been said, but we have to be consistent and we have to be transparent. Okay, can we move
Madam
to?
Chair.
Yes. Any other
Madam Chair,
comments?
Member Elliott Santos has raised, yes, Member Elliott Santos has raised her hand.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. And I agree also with all the things that have been said here. I just want to bring up something that no one has discussed, and that's trust. And so when I hear that we can talk about all kinds of things except what would be regarding law enforcement in the state of the way things are going today, we have to show that trust. And so if there are issues regarding law enforcement, we need to hear them and address them. Out in Boulevard, where I live, we have issues. We have come to the table as a tribe to speak about law enforcement. We are in the backcountry. We know there's limited resources, but that doesn't make our issues any less than anyone else's. And so I feel this committee needs to do all it can to build that trust. And I would hope that the sheriff and the district attorney being on this group would also like to see that trust built so that we can show the public that in fact there is trust, there is a mechanism for them to be heard. And I also don't want anyone to feel that they come before us and not be heard. That would be, I think, the biggest atrocity that we could commit, is not listen to the public. Yes, I know that sometimes we will have to weed through complaints that are maybe not something we need to look at, but I agree with what Chairwoman Nash said. We have to make it equal across the board, no matter who it's about, or like I said, whether it's over law enforcement or anything else, we need to hear it. So I just felt the need to say that because I live in an area where law enforcement doesn't always answer our needs, and I would like a way to be able to bring that to a group like us. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Daphne Watson had her hand raised.
Mm-hmm.
Ms.
You're
Watson,
muted.
if you could unmute yourself, Ms. Watson.
I concur with the comments that Jess was made, because that's what I was raising my hand to. Because I remember at last meeting, Enrique Moranes brought up some concerns and issues, and I know the Sheriff Gore responded to that, but we never understood the whole issue, and we never were able to honestly air out whatever the challenges were. Now, Commissioner Morones may have had his own personal experience, and we might all say, okay, I understand that. That's your personal experience, and there's not more that can be done. But to not hear it, or to sort of be dismissive of it, or just to go into an empty hole where there is no response, I don't think that's what the commission should be doing. We should hear people's concerns. We should be able to say, all right, we need to direct it to get either further information, or we should be able to direct it for appropriate discussion with appropriate people, and then come back and say, well, there might be nothing we can do other than air it out. But at least we're hearing that person, we're acknowledging that we're hearing. We are not dismissing the concern, and the brave souls that bring their concerns here. I think that's something that we have to do.
Thank you, Duffy. Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't see any other hands raised, and
I think Claudia is frozen.
Can I move to consider the question?
Question?
We are having, Claudia is having technical difficulties, so just one second.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, you're back with us now, Claudia.
Okay, great. I wanted to reiterate, thank you. I wanted to, oh dear, what happened? I wanted to reiterate what I think what the motion is, and as revised by Commission Member Roberts, was to add the standing item to the agenda, which would allow the Commission to discuss community-raised issues that would be limited, such discussion would be limited to 15 minutes, and allow the Commission to direct the matter to be placed on a future agenda for possible action to be taken. I would add this. There's been comments about the parameters, such as the 15 minutes, basing it on the public comment and the scope of that, and making sure that there is consistency and transparency. You do have the motion, I believe the second on that motion, Mr. Anaya would need to agree to that amendment, that the clarification of the 15 minutes and the directing to the future agenda. And I wanted to clarify that for the record. And if the Commission would like, what we could do also is, I'm having technical. Okay. If the Commission would like us staff to take a look at coming up with some more specific parameters or process, we could do that and return back with some suggestions based on the comments we've heard today, if that's what you'd prefer to do. You do have a maker of a motion who has made some changes that does need to be agreed to by the second. But I did want to raise what we think the motion was revised to.
This is Commissioner Anaya, and I have no issues with the changes. I'm okay with them.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So we do have a motion and a second to add the standing agenda item to discuss community-raised issues. The discussion is limited to 15 minutes and would allow the Commission to direct the matter to be placed on a future agenda for possible action to be taken. I will tell you, having the discussion as discussed and then placing on a future agenda with whatever potential actions you may take that would be Brown Act consistent. You could not engage in one meeting to do a whole host of things that haven't been agendized, such as potential actions, without noticing those. And Member Perez has her hand raised.
I just don't know if I would put possible action. I mean, we want to take action. So whatever that may be, I think we still need to put a response out there. I think putting the word possible in there then makes it sound like, oh, we may or may not address the issue. And whatever it is, even if it's a negative impact, whatever the issue is, we do need to come to a resolution on it. So I don't like the word positive action. I just think it should be taken out. Thank you.
The word was possible?
Right, possible action. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Claudia, this is Member Harris.
Oh, Member Harris.
Yes, I think that possible action is a necessary term, and here's why. We have sort of a responsibility, right? The commission has a responsibility to respond, but you know, I say possible because it is all based upon how the issues are raised and what the response may or may not be from the commission. And so to take out possible, I think possible gives the commission the flexibility on how to respond and how to strategize around the issue, because there may be public comments that we will not be responding to, or the commission will not be responding to, if it's just, it could be something just way out there and somebody shows up. And I think that gives at least a reasonable threshold to take action on issues, and sometimes, you know, there may not be any action. So possible action gives that flexibility. I think we want to be careful. I think the commission should be careful wanting to agree to respond, to take action on every single public comment that comes in. It may have possible action or it may not.
But my point is that everything needs to be taken action on, whether it's the response. Maybe I should clarify. A response, a follow-up response should be an action on every single issue that comes up. I'm not saying that we're going to go about and maybe, you know, take it further, take it to that's separate. What I'm talking about is just that every single response needs to be taken action on. It could be negative. It could be that
That's right.
you know, we aren't going to be able to do anything on this item, but it requires, to me, action means you're going to respond to it, either, you know, positive or negative, but you're going to take that and you're going to respond to it. That's my clarification on that point.
I would add for the benefit of the commission is, to the extent there's a public comment received regarding a specific issue that's within county's jurisdiction, it is referred to the appropriate department and they do respond or reach out to that individual. If what you're talking about is a response to the commission, that could be something different. But if somebody does lodge a public comment, it does get referred so that they are reached out to. It's not just, if it's something within the county's jurisdiction, it's not left in the...
And that's action taken. That's action taken on the issue. We referred it. We couldn't handle it as a commission. However, we referred it. So to me, we took action on it. And that's what I mean by positive or negative. It could be that we didn't address it. However, we did refer it, and that was our action. Our action was to refer it. That, just clarify.
We have Member Corey's hand up.
Okay, unmute. I do agree with what was said now, because as we will need to respond, and the word positive is maybe misleading, because sometimes we may have to respond a little bit negatively. But at the same time, Claudia, you mentioned that any complaint or anything we receive will be forwarded to the department within the county and so on. But in this specific case, we cannot send it to the sheriff to investigate himself, especially that the complaint was against the sheriff. So what do we do as a commission? Basically, is we need to ourselves investigate it, especially that we have a member who was present at the time, which is Enrique, and who can tell us more about the facts of the incident. So I'd like to refrain from having everything that we receive go to department within the county specifically, and especially if it is, regarding or a complaint against one of those departments.
Member Gore's hand is raised.
Yeah, I respect your question there, but there is a Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board, if that's appropriate. If there's other avenues that that issues regarding the Sheriff's Department can be referred to, but generally that's after the facts are developed. As we all know, there's two sides to every story, and my concern was earlier is that we don't just listen to complaints and expect an answer in the commission meeting. Have it referred to the Sheriff's Department. If we come back with an explanation that's not satisfactory, the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board has jurisdiction, for example, over protest activities now, so they could be referred there. I think you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, then I'd like to make a quick comment. This is Enrique. Don't we have public speakers waiting to make comments about this very issue? And I think in the future, when we have public speakers, we could have them, speak at the beginning, because they're hearing for a whole hour just how we get to this issue. I mean, this is kind of
We have speakers. No, we have speakers on agenda item number 5, which are the specific issues raised on November 24th. This is agenda item number 4, was just considering whether to add a standing agenda item.
I understand, but my point is that maybe we could have them at the beginning, so they don't have to sit there for an hour listening just to how we're going to move forward. These are important issues, and it wouldn't have hurt to have had them out of courtesy go at the very beginning, so they don't have to sit here for an hour and hear and I repeat what I had mentioned before. I and a lot of people have a big issue with having law enforcement on this commission when they are a huge part of the problem what's happening nationally. And I know that once again, Enrique, hey, but I stand by what I say, and I'm not the only one.
Okay, so the order, Enrique, will take your comment into consideration when we place the agenda items, the order of the agenda items. Thank you for that comment. So are we at the point now that we could take a vote on this matter?
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Member Roberts, I think at one point may have, oh, it's not up. Okay. So there was a motion and a second. So you're ready to call the vote if you.
Okay, let's call the vote.
Angela Elliott Santos.
Aye.
Sheriff Gore.
Aye.
Kara Desert.
Aye.
Daphne Watson.
Aye.
Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Elena Perez.
Aye.
Ellen Nash.
No.
Enrique Morones. Enrique Morones.
I abstain. I'm not too clear on this proposal, but go ahead. I abstain.
Would you like me to repeat the motion?
Not just for me, unless others need to have it repeated.
I would like it repeated.
The motion by Member Roberts and seconded by Member Anaya is to add a standing item to the agenda which would allow the Human Relations Commission to discuss community-raised issues. Such discussion shall be limited to 15 minutes and allow the Human Relations Commission to direct the matter to be placed on a future agenda for possible action to be taken.
My only comment would be that it has the option of taking immediate action as well. If that's the case, then if not, I abstain.
So what is your vote?
If there's not an immediate action available, then no.
Okay. Estela de los Rios?
No.
George Curry?
No.
Gina Roberts?
Yes.
Kate Chasen?
Yes.
Kate Clark,
Yes.
Kenya Taylor,
Yes.
Nicole Murray Ramirez,
Yes.
Norma Chavez Peterson,
I abstain. I'm sorry I was late, so I didn't hear the whole discussion.
Pedro Anaya,
Yes.
Rashid Essa,
Yes.
Ryan Garcia,
Yes.
Samuel Troy,
Yes.
Shane Harris. Oh, he had to step away. Okay.
He voted yes online.
Oh, I don't, he said, my vote is yes for this item, even if it's amended a little, even if it's amended a little. My vote is a yes for this item, even if it's amended a little. Okay. So Member Harris indicated yes by chat, by written. Okay. Summer Stefan, Member Stefan, sorry.
Yes.
Member Hassan,
I abstain.
Member Gillies,
Yes.
Member Arton.
Abstain.
Give us a moment to count. That motion carries by 18 votes in favor, 1, 2, 3 abstentions, and 4 noes.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Can we move to the next agenda item?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next agenda item is discussion arising from the 2 electronic public comments on non-agenda items received for the November 24th, 2020 meeting and other recent community raised matters related to the Commission promoting positive human relations. Per the request of the Commission, this item was placed in response to the 2 electronic comments that had been received and distributed to the entire Commission prior to its meeting. And there was some discussion about other recent community matters that were also raised in public comment, which was a matter that was raised by a member of the public about I believe it was either a protest or vigil in Poway.
Okay.
We do have a public speaker. And her name is Tari Gilbert.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So since August, a coalition of medical providers, human rights activists, and religious figures have held a peaceful vigil each week at the county admin building. On November 21st, about 100 Trump supporters protesting election results on the west side of the building marched around the block and stopped at our vigil. Most of them were maskless, and as they started crowding around us, I asked them to move away at least 6 feet and to put on their masks. A few complied, but the majority that surrounded us started arguing. Among our protesters, one had his phone knocked into the street and another was struck by a flagpole. As they started to disperse, I realized that there were 2 sheriffs and a park employee who watched this unfold. I walked over to one of the sheriffs and asked why he did not intervene, especially as the new mask mandate was in place that day. He said the most I could do would be to write tickets, and what good would that do? He went on to say that there were too many of them to control, so he chose to monitor the situation. I am not a law enforcement officer, but this struck me as negligent at best. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Public health experts have asked all of us to do our part and abide by their mandates. But a peaceful vigil under the ineffectual eye of the Sheriff's Department put each other and our group at risk for COVID. As you know, COVID transmission could be a death sentence. This is too high of a price to pay for exercising our First Amendment rights. We request that the Sheriff's Department enforce public health mandates and offer protection to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
That
you so
concludes the
much.
public speakers on agenda
Okay.
item number 5.
Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
First of all, I'd like to ask, I understand Sheriff Gore had the opportunity to review this, and I'm wondering if he has any comment to make on it. And I wanted to ask the speaker and Enrique if they both saw me there, because I was observing.
Well, this is sorry. I did not see you there.
Enrique?
Mr. Morones has his hand up.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I did not see you there either, but I did see I went to the sheriff, met with the sheriff this morning and saw what they had on their camera. I didn't see the complete version, but I saw what they showed me. And Tari Gilbert happens to be a nurse practitioner. She's a frontline worker. She's sacrificing her life every day to keep us safe, similar to Michelle McCurdy, who previously made public comments about a Poway incident, and again, the sheriffs did not respond. So, of course, we're going to hear a different version, as I expect, from the sheriff's position. But we were there that were being physically attacked. Knocked out of my hand, a flagpole hit one of the friars. Our group that was there that Saturday consisted of a 70-plus-year-old woman, a doctor, female doctor, 2 nurse practitioners, both female. Not that gender matters, but just to tell you who they were. 2 friars, male, and myself, holding a peaceful vigil. We were attacked, physically attacked. They were yelling at us from 2 feet in front of our faces. We were looking for protection, and the sheriffs just stood by. When we're asked to go to the sheriffs to ask for a report, it's like asking to go into some people that we don't trust. We don't trust them. We have seen their inaction, or in some cases, their action, when they're saying hello to people that we identify as, whether it's the East County Defenders or these other racist individuals. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable, and that's why I will continue to speak out. I know I'm putting myself at risk. I could care less. But I'm going to protect my fellow man. So I stood my ground, made sure that the doctor that was next to me, who must be like 5'3", from India, was protected. And I still cannot believe the sheriff's inaction in getting involved. They wanted it, they didn't feel that they had enough numbers. Well, how about us? We didn't have enough numbers. And no, I didn't see Gina there.
Okay, Commissioner Monroe, let's ask the Sheriff Gore. Commissioner Sheriff Gore, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, and Enrique, you said you saw the video this morning, and I think you insinuated we didn't show you all the video, that we edited the video somehow, that we didn't show you all the video. That the video is of the confrontation. That is what we show you. We don't have the ability to edit those body-worn cameras. So what you saw, and I know you went over specifically with the sergeant this morning what was on the video, and as best I looked at the video also, and it's my interpretation, and I didn't see some of the things you reflected in your complaint. Now, obviously the video was from probably, what, 30, 40 feet away. The problem we have that law enforcement is in these situations is both sides have a First Amendment right to express their feelings. And we've seen demonstrations going back all for the last 4 or 5 months. We have not chosen to enforce the mask ordinance with protests on either side, and I would, say the Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of people in those protests without wearing masks, and on the Defend East County, to be specific, there was a lot of people not wearing masks there. Our primary function was to keep any confrontation between the two groups, keep from having any confrontation, and allowing people to express their First Amendment rights. The actions of you being attacked on Pacific Coast Highway, in my opinion, were not reflected in that body-worn camera video. Certainly there was a vociferous exchange of ideas between your group and the President Trump supporters. Our role in that is to make sure that nobody is harmed. We did not see, and the body-worn camera did not reflect somebody being hit with a flagpole or the phone being knocked out of your hands. And when you talk to the deputy that on the scene there, that was not reported to the deputy at the time. So our position was to make sure there was nobody violently attacked or hurt, and let them, to the best of our ability, express their First Amendment rights. I think the body-worn camera video just doesn't reflect what you represented in your complaint. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't miss something in the body-worn camera. It could have happened when your back was turned, but I didn't see a violent attack. In fact, at one point, I saw one of the members of your group, Commissioner Morones, try to pull you away or ask you to come down to the side away from the 2 or 3 President Trump protests that were there to disengage, and you chose not to in that video, to stay there and exchange, and I'm sure, which was some, you know,
Well, let me respond to that, Sheriff.
exchange of opinions anyway.
The reason you didn't see a lot of that is because the Trump flags blocked the body-worn camera. The sheriff stood back, the flags were waving in front of them, after they greeted 2 of the Trump supporters, by the way. The reason I did not move away from those people was I didn't want to bring them over to these women that were without, you know, that were being attacked, that were being yelled at. I was going to stand my ground and try to keep safe distance, since your sheriffs did not. So don't give me that about, you saw the video, you saw the Trump flags in front of the camera. So of course you couldn't see what was going on. There was limited things you could see, and I did go to the sheriff and say that there was violence against us. I admit, I thought I had said that I told him about the phone incident. I didn't say that to him apparently, but when I said violence, that included that. And there's witnesses that saw the phone, you know, fly out of my hand. So there's 2 versions. There's the version that you have. You saw the video, so you saw the Trump flags in front of the camera. And I have the version of being right there, standing there, defending my fellow people that were in the vigil, and I will continue to defend them. So extremely disappointed. It's not new. I've heard of other cases. I've been in a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, supporting Black Lives Matter, and I will continue to do so. They are almost always very peaceful people. There are always groups within them, or not always, but oftentimes there's groups within them, like we had in our vigil this past week, that are not people that we invited, that maybe are a little, you know, doing things that we would not do. We're not engaging and provoking and so forth. This group did not only provoke, they made physical contact. I want you to take the report from the Friar Mercado about being hit by the flagpole. Nurse or Ms. Tari Gilbert, I don't know if she's still on the call, she saw the phone fly. So these things are really happening because the sheriff stood their ground and did not try to protect us by staying safely away for their sake, I guess. That is not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
Commissioner, let me interrupt. Commissioner Morones, and I'm still confused about where the resolution, resides in this particular matter. How are we going to resolve this particular issue? Since I wasn't a part of the protest, I have COVID-related issues, and I'm sheltering in place. So protests, again, I go back to how do we define a peaceful protest, given that we have to remain in compliance with what Commissioner Sheriff Gore with the First Amendment. See, I see that as the confusion here, and as a good example of where a presentation, a workshop, town hall that will educate residents on what is defined as a peaceful protest. Because me personally right now, I'm confused. The last time I was in a protest, I was a student at San Diego State University, and we did what we had to do. But now at 67 years old, under COVID, it's a whole different situation. So, and this is a whole different time period. So again, how do we define a peaceful protest? And we need to bring in the subject matter experts to educate residents who want to get involved in protests, that they need to understand what their rights are and where law enforcement draws the line, and it's, you know, it's appropriate under the First Amendment, right, versus what is not right.
Freedom
you know what I mean? So that needs to be a discussion as had.
This Commissioner Ramirez, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm very curious because Commissioner Roberts said she was there, and I'd like to hear her observation.
I purposely stayed back from the crowd. I saw Enrique's group, and I just kind of wanted to walk by and see what was going on, because I had also driven through the protest in Poway that they had complained about. I didn't see anything overt. There was a little bit of an exchange that I saw, but I honestly didn't hang out for the whole thing because I thought it was going fairly peacefully. And I was actually not there to attend it. I was actually just walking around the down by the waterfront and saw this thing happen, and I figured, oh, there's probably going to be something I want to see. So I just was kind of wandered over that way, and I did actually have a mask on. I also looked a little different because I had different hair on and things, but I did not see any overt violence, but I honestly was not looking for it specifically either. But my experience with most of those people in those crowds has not been violent.
Nicole, I want to comment on that. I find it curious that Gina was there, and also in Poway. Remember, she's the same person that didn't want to have white supremacy added to what we were talking about. Same person, Trump people, just want to bring that up. But as far as the First Amendment and freedom of speech,
Commissioner,
as far as First Amendment,
Enrique, wait a minute.
That doesn't include speaking
Hold
from 2
up.
feet
I
in
am
front
the
of somebody
chair.
without a mask.
I am the chair.
It doesn't include that.
No,
and
wait.
so that's the difference.
Hold up.
So,
I am the
it's
chair.
important that we note it.
No,
we
I
note
am the
that.
chair, and we are not going to be disrespectful to each other. Not as long as I'm chair.
Somebody speaking
And so
without a mask,
no
2 feet in front
personal
of us.
attacks are not going to be present. We are a professional group, and we are going to respect each other's position. I may not agree, but I'm not going to personally attack anyone on this, or I'm done, because this is not going to become a personal attack session. Not on my watch.
Right.
So
pointing your finger at me, I
we
guess,
have
is
to agree to disagree, but we will do it in a very mature, professional way.
Alan
Period.
Gruber threatened.
No, wait a minute. We are representing the public.
That's right.
We are representing also the County of San Diego. I represent several organizations, Black-related organizations, and I do not want to be a part of a group that's going to personally attack each other, because that's why this country is divided now. We are personally attacking each other. We need to agree to disagree professionally and respect each other. Thank you.
I'm responding to personal attacks.
Madam Chair, Member Taylor and Member Chavez-Peterson, in that order, have their hands up.
There's enough shit.
Okay. I'm really disappointed with this discussion here today. Respect is so important. And even though I am a Black on this commission, I live in an incorporated part of town. I'm in District 2. I don't have a mayor. Yes, we have the sheriffs out here. But at the same time, if we're not setting a wholesome example for others to follow, we can't expect other people in the community to do better. We need to make this commission a safe environment for people to be able to use assertive words, not aggressive, but assertive. It's okay for us to address our concerns, but there's no place for blatant disrespect, even though I've seen a lot of unfortunate things. Even though in my past year, if I had to speak out against the sheriff and having people sit outside my house, and I was in an article about that recently. there's still opportunities for growth. There's still opportunities for us to build trust. There's still opportunities for us to build a safe environment so we could talk about these things. But rest assured, based on what just happened on this meeting that we're in, 15 minutes is going to create more chaos if we as commissioners don't get it together. Because these are some heated discussions that seem like they might be more appropriate to discuss in a different setting where we have more time to talk about what we can do to build trust, because they're relevant. I've been out this way since '88. I've lived out in the unincorporated part of town since '88. There's not a lot of people that look like me. Most of my work has been in the rural communities. My aunt and uncle live in Boulevard. You know, this is my reality, even though I have the other part of me that does a lot of work in Southeast. It's a different world, a different experience, but what I don't want to happen with the commission is based on our actions here, the tension flares up out here more in District 2, and I and the other residents of District 2, we're left to deal with it. We need to somehow figure out what we could do to come together for the betterment of the county, or else we don't need to be here, period. I try to be very empathetic, but on these calls, it just seems like there's just so much tension and extra issues that need to be resolved. And a lot of it, I'm not even a part of it, but somehow we need some swift resolutions so we could do the work of the commission, but most importantly, support those so we could have the best human relations commission ever, but also our community members feel safe. But
That's
this
right.
going on right now, we could do better, commissioners. I hope
Thank
we
you.
agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Anyone else?
Yes, we had member Chavez Peterson.
Yeah, I'll just keep mine short. I mean, I missed the last meeting. I was not available, and I'll just say, you know, in terms of the discussion that's happening right now, I mean, I think we need some clarity about the different bodies that exist and where are the actual vehicles to address some of these issues. And then I know we still have work ahead. I mean, it took us, I don't know how many, 7 or 8 meetings to get through the process of just appointing new commissioners. And I think where we want to go, if I remember correctly, our last meeting was that, you know, we were going to be looking at best practices at other human relations commissions, and we were going to, you know, do some strategic planning and some goal setting around what we're actually going to do, what our role is, and to get very, very clear, because I feel like, you know, until, you know, there's one of my mentors used to say, you know, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And if we're not clear about, you know, if we're not on the same page about the goals and the vision of this commission, then we're spinning our wheels and wasting a lot of our time. And I just, you know, there's a citizens review board, I forgot the official name, that was just mentioned for these types of issues when there is, you know, an official complaint with law enforcement. Let's follow that process. And, you know, other issues are going to come up. But I agree with Commissioner Taylor. I don't think we're being a good example, you know, to the rest of the public for how a commission actually gets to work and creates a better San Diego for everyone. So I'm just venting a little bit, but I hope we can move forward and get to a point where we can actually be very clear about what the purpose and the function of our commission is going to be and what our goals are going to be, so that we can have a little bit more focus and not be derailed, which constantly happens.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez Peterson.
Madam Chair, we have member Corey, De Los Rios, and Chasen in that order.
Okay.
But let's go back to the issue at hand. My understanding is the sheriff, at least I wasn't there, but some people who were there told me that some members were masked and some were not. And those that were not were very close to the ones that were, and they were shouting at them. And to me, the virus is as good as a machine gun. And I would have expected, at least from what I heard, and I wasn't there, I repeat, that the sheriffs would have been there to serve and protect. And when they see somebody coming that close to somebody else when they are unmasked, they should have interfered to remove those people or maintain the required distance accordingly. That alone by itself is really alarming to me, that when they saw people without masks, they did not get involved.
Member De Los Rios and Member Chasen after.
Member De Los Reyes?
Sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you. First and foremost, I agree with some of these comments, but I'm really concerned with our commission. I believe trust and respect are the two key words here. And I just want to remind everyone, we did have a dynamic group last meeting, which was the UP, I forget the other belonging institute that came to present, if everyone remembers that, UPD Consulting. And we were speaking about some of the issues in regards to building trust and our workplace culture and implementation. So I think that's going to be very helpful as we move forward, because part of that process was investing in our foundation as a human relations committee. So these little baby steps that we're taking are important, but I think that going forward in the ad hoc committee, this can be more emphasized on how we're going to work as a human relations commission and participate and engage so that we can be the community human relations commission that we are reflecting in our community. So I just want to say that I'm looking forward for this ad hoc committee and working with the HPT Consulting, if everyone remembered that last meeting, because I do see and identify some of the issues on our calls as we begin in the beginning. So I think this will be very helpful so that we can build a foundation and trust each other as commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Chasen, Arton, and then Anaya.
I just want to touch on a point briefly because everybody has kind of reiterated the same point of trust and respect between the different commission members. But I just wanted to highlight that even like a couple of meetings ago, we just approved the proposed duties and responsibilities, the first of which is to promote positive human relations and foster mutual respect and understanding among all groups and communities within the county. So this was a couple of meetings ago. This was a few weeks ago. So I really just hope that in the future we can honor that, seeing as how we just went through, we deeply analyzed those to make sure they accurately reflected what we as a commission wanted to convey to the county. But everybody so far has reiterated that point, so I want to make it brief.
Thank you.
Member Arton and Member Anaya.
Thanks, Claudia. Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, I think a lot of people covered how we need to create a positive environment. I wanted to reiterate, though, Norma's point earlier about learning more about the county itself. I think a lot of us I think we all have like a varying amount of knowledge when it comes to the county and how it functions. And like, if somebody has an issue on a specific topic, like where do we send them? Like, where do they go? Maybe we need that knowledge. Maybe we need to like have a little session on, you know, what are some of the county departments? What are the county commissions that exist? Where do we need to refer to these people? Like if they need help with this and that, maybe we need to do a session on one of the commissions, commission meetings. Because I think that's important information that we need in order to ensure that we're being that bridge between the county and the community. And I also think it would help us kind of identify, the more we know about the county systems and how it functions and like what is where, I think also allows us to kind of identify the gaps and like some of the systemic flaws that may exist. So I definitely would like for us to do a session on that if possible.
Member Anaya has his hand up.
Yes, just real quick here, trying to go back to the main agenda item here that we discussed, and I know we were slightly taken off right now by comments, and we have to be real careful that we continue to keep our focus, and because little things can take us out of the way. What I haven't heard in this discussion, and I think it's an important discussion that and it won't be the last time we have this discussion about these type of issues. They're going to continue to come up until we find a solution, right? But I think what I have not heard throughout this discussion is what are we trying to get to? Like, what is it? Yes, this happened, right? Okay, right. And the sheriff is having a conversation, Enrique's having a conversation with folks. We have public speakers, but what are we trying to get to, and what's within our scope? And that's where I agree with Commissioner Travis Peterson, is that we because we are still formulating what our scope is and what we can do. We're not in a position today to really take, and I think I heard Enrique say this back when we were talking about the last agenda item. Well, is there immediate action we can take? Well, we don't even know what immediate action is for us in this particular case. We could talk this to death. We could go around in circles. We could keep bringing up things, but as a commission, we're not there yet, unfortunately, or at least, the very least, I have not heard anyone propose, okay, this is the issue, here's the action we recommend. And, and I'm not the kind of person that wants to see action just being a statement, okay, well, what's some real constructive stuff? But I think that's going to happen when we go through this strategic planning and narrowing our focus to move forward. So I think that's where I'm a little stuck right now. Like, I want to take some action. I definitely am, when I hear things like this happening, it frustrates me, and I wish and they should not be happening. But what as a group are we able to do? What do we want to do? And I don't think in the next couple minutes we're going to solve that today. And again, this will not be the last time we have this conversation. So we need to start building towards an answer towards this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anaya. Anyone else? Claudia?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Great.
Oh, wait,
Great.
Daphne Watson?
Oh,
just saw
okay.
Daphne Watson, Member Watson.
I just like a process question. I agree with the last comment. Perhaps the only thing we can do, we can acknowledge either in writing or in some way the issue that was raised, the response by whomever, whether it be Sheriff Gore, and maybe our own recommendation is just for them to have continued dialogue, or there is not any room for us to, but we acknowledge what was brought to us, we acknowledge both sides of it, and acknowledge that we encourage more dialogue, or we're not in a position to take any action. That may be the process that we do, and that way we're not dismissing what was brought to us, or dismissing either side, but we acknowledge that yes, this is what was said. I mean, and I think it should be in writing personally, but so that we have a record of that we have done something, we have acknowledged this, and we move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Watson.
I don't, Member Morones has his hand up.
Sure. My immediate action recommendation was actually made by the two public speakers, Michelle McCurdy, veteran nurse practitioner before, and Tari Gilbert, nurse practitioner, which is that law enforcement should be protecting and serving both sides, not just one side. And their inaction could lead to more violence. And that is immediate action that they should be doing and they're not doing. We've already had a couple of cases, and that's, yeah, there can be discussion and all that, and that's welcome. But that is immediate action that should be taking place. And as far as consistency, when the consistency is bad, that doesn't mean we should continue to have consistency. It's just like the rule of law issue. When they say, yeah, this is a country of rule of laws. And I remind people, Nazi Germany was a country of rule of laws. So if the laws are bad, we got to change them. If what's consistent is not helping people or protecting people, we got to change it. So right now, the immediate action is we have the sheriff on this task force or this committee, which is, you know, I already expressed my opinions about that, but nothing's changed. There's been another protest. People were attacked physically, no mask, etc., and they didn't step in. That is absolutely wrong, and they need to be held accountable.
And the video just doesn't reflect, Enrique, that you were physically attacked. I'm sorry. Like they say in the sports, let's go to the video, and you acknowledge that. You said, well, I felt like I was attacked. The video doesn't reflect that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my hand knocking, the phone knocked out of my hand, the mask list, the witnesses, that the flag.
And then you said, after he knocked the phone out of your hand, he ran towards the deputy. And that's not reflected in the video either.
Yeah, the camera was
Commissioner Morones and Commissioner Gore, this discussion back and forth has to end. Commissioner Morones, you did say that the solution is, or immediate action would be, you know, law enforcement should have taken better action.
Yes.
That's, you know, again, that to me, again, as a resident, I'm confused about what a peaceful protest should look like.
Come to our vigils, you'll see.
Okay, all right. But at this point, I don't think there is a real, we heard it. I agree with Commissioner Watson. I don't know what our scope is of responsibility, but we did hear it. And I continue my outcry is, what is a peaceful protest? And we need to bring subject matter experts in order to define what is a peaceful protest. What is the appropriate response from law enforcement, the appropriate response from the protesters, and where is the line drawn on whose role is where? I'm still confused about that, even from this discussion. So until we get clarity on those definitions, there's really no response that this commission can have at this time.
Madam Chair, Member Gore had his hand up.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Gore.
Obviously, Enrique and I disagree on what was on the video or what happened in the protest. I would recommend that Commissioner Morones take the information or his complaint to the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board, which is an independent body that has jurisdiction over this type of issue within the Sheriff's Department, a new expanded jurisdiction as of about 3 or 4 months ago with a board action. So that would be my best recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I also ask if at some future commission meeting, someone had raised that we do need to get a little bit more clarification on what the roles are in the county and who does what. I believe that this board that Sheriff Gore is referring to should be one of the first departments that come before this commission. First of all.
Good idea.
Madam Chair, we can bring forward some information as to a variety of boards and commissions. We'd previously provided, I think, a quick summary list of them, but we can talk about with a little bit more information as to a variety of those. Certainly, we could invite somebody from the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board to present on their scope and what they do, as the Human Relations Commission is not an investigatory law enforcement review board. It is a commission for the purpose of promoting positive human relations with its list of recently adopted duties and responsibilities that set forth its scope.
Okay, great. Great. Let's get that on the agenda sooner than later.
Okay.
And I also want to remind us that we had spoke of our own Honorable Leon Williams coming before this body. And I think we should do that sooner than later.
We will we will make effort to reach out. We'll reach out and follow up and respond. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
There are no other hands up, Madam Chair.
Okay. I think this is our last agenda item.
Our last agenda item is a excuse me, strategic planning and goal setting. The commission had last time indicated that it wanted to, there was quite a bit of variety of discussion as to whether or not to have retreat meeting dates, if it was too soon to maybe wait to gather more, hear more information from UPD and the Othering and Belonging Institute, and also whether or not we could use meeting time, our regular meeting time, to also start discussing strategic planning and goal setting. This is an opportune time while we have 19 minutes left in this meeting. We did want to leave this on the agenda to start having the discussion of how this commission would like to proceed. Certainly we can continue to have strategic planning on the next agenda also. And you will also have, the consultants will be providing some information back to you at the next meeting. And we can start to engage in that brainstorming. And once again, what I would say is we go back to the duties and responsibilities. That sets the scope of this commission's work, and it provides all of the various breadth it has.
Okay.
We have
All right.
Member Perez's hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I thought that at the last meeting we had agreed that we would start strategic planning meetings in January after we gave the consultants some time to gather thoughts, maybe potentially preliminary meet with the subcommittee, and then bring back some information to us. And then we would start having kind of more of an outlined discussion based on what they would present to us. So we would kind of have an outline of, you know, how these discussions, how we would start these discussions. I thought that's where we agreed on the last meeting. Please clarify that.
Member Perez, that was some of the comment that was received. I will say that we had, the reason it's back on the agenda is because there was a variety of discussion and indication, and it wasn't clear on the actual direction we had. We did hear that, which is why there was no calendaring of additional dates. And we did hear that the commission wanted to hear more from the consultant, which we can do. We left it on this agenda to obtain further direction, make sure we're on the right path with the commission and how it wants to proceed with its strategic planning. And we could certainly wait till January and gather more information. We certainly have other matters and presentations we can make to the commission at the next meeting also, in regards to what was just requested here, some further background on what other boards and commissions do. And we can do that. It's at the commission's direction. So
I would repropose that we still wait until we get a little bit more information, and then start scheduling some meetings, you know, as early as January. But I still feel like we just don't have enough information to kind of, you know, hit the ground, you know, running. But obviously whatever the other members have to say is, you know, welcome.
Yeah, we take our direction from you all. So certainly if that's the direction of the commission, we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Khoury. I just received 15 minutes ago an email from UPD Consulting regarding an ad hoc meeting on the 7th. So
yes.
There will be an ad hoc meeting on the 7th of December, which is, I think there is a committee that's going to be discussing that with them. And so I concur, we can start as an ad hoc committee and then have our strategic meetings in more or less in January.
Yes, the subcommittee meetings that are for the work to be done on developing the mission statement for the Office of Equity and Racial Justice, which will include this other foundational information that they discussed with the commission at the last meeting.
Okay.
So if that's the will.
Any other comments?
I don't see any other hands raised, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Do we need to take a vote or action on this particular item today?
There's no further, I think we're clear. Based on the direction and the comments today, we're clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a very robust meeting. today.
Yeah, you could say that.
Thank you all. Again, our bottom line, our premise is we just want to ensure that the public, our residents, our constituents are heard, and that we respond in a timely manner. And we respect each other, and we respect our residents, and we can agree to disagree, but we'll do it in a much more professional manner. I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your very busy schedules to be a part of this commission. And I know how important it is to all of you. We are in some challenging times right now. And this commission, as Commissioner Taylor said, could be the best commission. We're making history just coming together, by the way, but we could be the best commission that was ever imagined here in San Diego County. And that's my commitment. That's why we're all here. Someone had, Commissioner Corey, did you have your hand up, sir?
Yeah, I was wondering, are we going to respond to the 2 emails by any chance that came from the public?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And who's going to formulate the response, and based on what?
Probably ought to be done by the law enforcement people.
So as a constituent referral, if it's referred to staff, it would be forwarded to the sheriff's department.
Okay.
And as I understand, it sounded based on the dialogue that there was already something filed with them potentially, but we will forward them as a constituent referral to that department.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the
information, Madam Chair, we've reached out to the complainant from Poway and received no response back, but we'll continue to try.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
I am sorry, but this complaint came to us as a commission, didn't come to the sheriff. And accordingly, yes, we go to the sheriff, bring whatever they want to say, and we respond. We should be responding to the community members as such. Do you agree?
Yeah.
To be honest,
I think
to be honest with you, that's why I voted no on that first, the agenda item, because we're not clear on how we're going to bring closure in response to our constituents. And this is a great example. We have to be consistent, as I said, consistent and transparent. And that's why I did not support that particular vote.
But I think we kind of, I think Commissioner Watson, I believe she kind of wrapped it up. I thought we were in agreement with that we would be responding, saying we did have the discussion, we heard both sides. In this case, we would be recommending it to the Citizens Review Board for further discussion, as I believe Sheriff Gore indicated. So I think that is what should be the response. We did have the discussion. You know, we don't have to get into all the details of it because, you know, but we did have the discussion. We heard both sides. You know, we are making the recommendation to send it up to the Citizens Review Board. And I think that is our response as far as action on the item. I think the other agenda item is a little bit separate in that we're just deciding what that process is going to be. But
right.
I think we have something on the table that we definitely need to respond to and not leave it hanging. And I thought Commissioner Watson, wrapped it up. I'm definitely in agreement with her comments as to, you know, that's our response for right now. That's what we can do.
Okay.
Staff can prepare that response and forward it to the chair for review. But consistent with Member Watson's direction of having heard the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
And for clarification on the CLRB issue, the referral would be to the individuals if they want to file something with the CLRB. We would give them the resources to where they would go if they had those issues. I was looking back at my notes. I want to make sure I captured that correctly.
That's correct. That's how I understood it.
And that language should be included in the proposed Watson model, where the matter is referred to. Okay. Can we call this meeting adjourned?
If no further items.
Meeting adjourned. All right. Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great
day.
week. All right, and have a great day.
Thank you, likewise.
You too, thank you.
All right.